I'm Jordan.
And I'm Rosanna.
And on this podcast, we explore how to take life off autopilot
and relentlessly pursue a life worth living together. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 2 of the Relentless Pursuit podcast, The Upside of Being Average. So, I'm just going to throw this out there, and you may agree to disagree, but this is what we're talking about today. I would say we're all, for the most part, pretty darn average. But
you're okay with that?
I think I am. After digging into this topic.
Wait, so the question is, the title is The Upside of Being Average.
The Upside of Being Average.
So a positive look at, what's the word? Averageosity?
Mediocrity?
Averageness?
Averageocrity. Yes, we've just made up a new word. I think that most people would hate to hear that statement, and so I'm going to read it again. We're all, for the most part, pretty darn average. But in the world that we live in today, it's the extremes that get all of the publicity. Why can't I talk when a mic gets turned on? We kind of all intuitively know this, but we rarely think or talk about it. The vast majority of us will never be truly what we would call exceptional at anything, or at least not everything. But that's okay. And I think that's the point of the episode, that mediocrity as a goal sucks, but mediocrity as a result is okay.
Okay, so a bit of a paradox there, right? I was thinking about this, though. If everyone is exceptional, then everyone is just average.
Mind blown.
So really what we want to explore is this almost coming to terms with what seems like an inevitability of being average. So, but why do we have to come to terms with that? Is this a modern thing? Is this just historically, like, is this something that we have to, like, an idea we have to get used to? Like, where does this conversation come from?
So I think we have this expectation, and even, let's use the word entitlement, more today than any other time in history, to be the best. It's kind of like this cultural upbringing that we're now raised in. And I would say, from like the millennial generation on, for my parents, and their parents who came here from another country, like, it was like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You wanted to come to America to have a little bit of freedom, to have a place to rest your hat, a table to put food on, and a happy, healthy family. And that was enough. Nobody came here with like this, $1 million Kim Kardashian mogul, best of the best, a gazillion followers kind of mentality. But that's kind of now this cultural upbringing that we've kind of been inundated with, and now that our children are being raised in.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's almost like the outcome that we want, and the one that we've been raised to pursue. Because you do think about just generationally, I look at, like, maybe, and I'm generalizing here, but the like the boomer generation, and there was a contentedness with, all right, I have a job, I have a house, I have a family, I have food, I'm good.
Right, we have a car.
There's no concern about how many
TV.
followers you have,
right.
Or the I guess how exceptional you were in one area of life or another. But I would say for us, for our kids, even the existence of this podcast is kind of the idea of, like, devoting ourselves to finding an exceptional way of living, right? Because average can be kind of scary. If you look at, like, what, I guess maybe it's how you define average, but it's like, I don't want to settle for what everybody else has. I'm pursuing, quote unquote, something more.
Well, and I think, you can use the words ordinary, mundane, right? If you're doing the same thing every single day and you don't feel challenged, or you don't feel like maybe you're giving back or you're contributing, I think maybe that's where, like, mundane and ordinary have a negative connotation, right? Like, again, mediocrity as a goal kind of stinks. Like, I have no goals, no aspirations. I don't want to leave anything better than it was before I got there. But having an average life where, right, you have friends, you have family, you can provide for them, you have food, you have everything that you need and most of what you want, is really just average and ordinary now, right? But in the same regard, there's the sense that we must always be proving that we're special, unique, exceptional all the time, no matter what. And really, that's what we're pushing on our kids, or that's what society is pushing on our kids. That
It
like,
was pushed on us. I mean, I think it began when we were young, right? And this is part of the American dream, is this idea like you can be anything, you can do anything, and that's a lot of pressure. It's like, oh man, like I better not settle for average then if I can be more than average. And it's like, okay, I can go to college. I do have these resources. I do have this education. I better make something of it. I think there's a pressure there.
yeah, but I think we're also responsible for kind of cultivating that too. Even now, when our son tells us, our oldest says, you're like, oh yeah, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be like you. I'm going to be a teacher, or gasp, I'm going to be a gym teacher. You say, no, you're not. Like you're gonna do better than I ever did. You're gonna be a doctor.
You could be any kind of doctor.
You can be any kind of doctor you want. Yeah, right? Like that we have these expectations for bigger and better. That like even your very fulfilling, very successful life isn't enough for him, that he needs to have it bigger and better.
Right. So, and we'll talk about the kids a little bit, but I'm thinking back to our own upbringing. Like and you were in some of the same classes. Like I was explicitly taught that I was above average. I'm thinking of like my honors English classes, right? And I was good at English in high school. So when I got to like an honors English class, like I felt like I was with other people, with a small select group of students who were at my degree of like intellectual capacity. And then we had teachers who explicitly reinforced that, who said, like, you are the smartest of your class. And then I remember, like, buying into that and believing it and trying to... It's good in a sense where you try to, like, fulfill that role. Like,
Live up to,
you live
yeah.
that way that you're perceived. And then I was fortunate to be admitted to U of I. And then I show up at U of I, and it's like everybody there, however many students were there at the time, like 20,000, 30,000 students, all had like the same experience. In fact, they were all like smarter than me. And that was just U of I. Imagine like, like other institutions as well, where they're even more elite or exclusive. And then you slowly realize that you're just like, you're not that special. You're just a drop in the bucket, right?
Of the smart people at U of I, you're probably just average.
It was just average, yeah. Or played soccer growing up. I became really good on my Park District team. And then I moved to the travel team, and then I wasn't even average. I was the worst for a short time, and then like I kind of became just as good as everyone else. And so, I think that there's a piece of us that is craving this idea of being exceptional, being extraordinary, being the person who other people can look up to and say like, wow, like they're more exceptional in this area or that area than I am.
Well, and really all day, every day, we're flooded with the truly extraordinary. Like, even when you're watching the news or you're on social media, or it doesn't even matter, like, or what you're reading, right? There's like this sense where it's like just the extraordinary is highlighted. It's out there for you to see, right? It's the game-winning shot. It's Elon Musk. It's like the richest person. Like that's what you're seeing. But like the vast majority of life and people continue to reside in the middle. We are like not those people. But then that being perpetuated all the time basically tells us, unless we're that person, unless we're Michael Jordan, unless we're Elon Musk, unless we're, Beyonce, like then we're nobody. And I think that's a fallacy. So I would say it's like this mediocrity myth. Being average has become the new standard of failure.
Yeah, that's like in Talladega Nights. If you're not first, you're last.
The worst thing that you can be is in the middle of the pack, right? In the middle of the bell curve.
So I admit, like it does feel awful to be like, yeah, I'm average. It feels sad to admit that. That is the truth. And I would be the first to admit I'm really average in a lot of ways at everything. But to say it out loud and to be like, yeah, that's the reality. It feels sad. Why is that?
Well, I mean, are you really mediocre at everything? Not really. I think there are plenty of ways that you're exceptional. But I think it really has
Thanks,
to,
babe. Oh.
it really has to do with this mindset of like, what is exceptional? Who are we comparing ourselves to? Like, what is the measuring stick? I think a lot of people are afraid to accept that they're mediocre or mediocrity because they believe if they accept it, then they'll never achieve anything, never improve, and that their life doesn't matter. And I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's really about growth. And that's, I think there's no way of having this conversation with kind of like out with reverting back to like talking about the kids or our experiences as being a kid and growing up. So like when I think of our oldest Jack, kid is smart, wicked smart. But because like, he is not, okay, it's like the top 10 kids, but he's like number 11. He's like, well, so-and-so is smarter than me. Okay. And maybe that's true, right? Like on a standardized test, or if we're ranking students 1 to 100 and he's not kid 93 and there's 7 kids smarter than him. He's not the smartest. So sometimes he carries that on his back. Like, well, I'm not smart, or I'm not as smart as that guy. And so a lot of times the conversations I have with him, there's always going to be someone who is smarter than you, that has more money than you, runs faster than you. The kid can't run for, snot. There's always going to be people who are better than you, but are you getting better? Right? Like, are you doing the best you can? Are you progressing forward? Like, it doesn't matter.
So,
like, who are we comparing ourselves to? We're always comparing ourselves to like something that's almost unattainable, but we're not focused on like how we're growing and how we're getting better.
So,
or even if we want to.
The whole idea of being average it's strictly comparison. Like the terms average or exceptional only exist because we're comparing ourselves to someone else. Is what you're saying.
Sure. I mean, there's the whole other conversation where some people tell their kids they're exceptional and they're not. I mean, then that's a whole nother conversation. But like, for the most part, we're all kind of the same.
So, but what I'm hearing you say is that being average or exceptional is just a matter of comparison, and it's like screw the comparison. Like you should only be comparing you to yourself, who you were yesterday. Right.
I think
are you getting smarter as compared to not like the kid you're next to in class, but are you smarter compared to what you knew yesterday?
Sure. I mean, I don't like to look at it as yesterday, like, but before. Sure.
Yeah. Just growth. I read an article by Mark Manson. He's the guy that wrote that book about how not to give an F or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I have that book. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... That one?
Yeah.
It's on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
So, but he wrote an article and he starts off by like painting a picture of like the perfect individual. And you can describe like this person, like they're super good looking, they're super smart, they're super wealthy, they just like start a business and it thrives over and over again. And they're super charitable, like they're friendly, they're charismatic, like, and the list goes on and on and on. And they're nice on top of it all too. I hate those kinds of people, right? Because you can't even not like them. But he says like the person I'm describing doesn't actually exist, and he actually said he was trying to describe Bruce Wayne. So we have, if you look at like humans' history, we have this tendency to invent these myths or these legends or these heroes because the actual person that we're looking for, we can't find in reality. Like there's no perfect person. There's no person who is like exceptional in all regards. And so, and then if he goes on to say, if you talk about influence, there's maybe like 1,000 people in the world who have some degree of influence out of the billions that exist, right? So it's unlikely that any of us are ever really going to be in a legitimate like position of influence the way like we might imagine. So we almost have to look at, and I wouldn't call the existence boring or mediocre, but there's almost like where we're not giving credit to what we have or who we are when we're wishing for something that's never going to come true, right? I'm never going to be Hercules. I'm never going to be Bruce
Hercules.
Wayne.
I like how that's your example.
I'm just thinking, I'm trying to think of a popular myth, right? So all that to say the point of like, all right, what are the areas of my life where being average is actually maybe it's really good to be average in that sense. Or what are the areas, or even one area, where I can focus on my own growth and my own degree of exceptionality?
And sometimes when I'm thinking of exceptionality, like if you think of people who are exceptional, right? And you said like maybe in the world there's like 1,000 of those people, right? And so, sometimes sports figures come to mind, or like you think like, I mean, like these are the like names that like literally right now, I haven't thought about this ahead of time. Who comes to mind? Michael Jordan, Mother Teresa, Oprah Winfrey. Like it's just like these like random, like some are celebrities, some are athletes. Like those are like some people that come to mind. And for some of that, and I'm not saying that it has to do, it doesn't have to do with like practice and effort and putting in, time and all of that. Because it does. There's some level of that. But some people are born exceptional, right? Like
Or you have like the native gifting,
right,
that when
gifting towards
cultivated,
athletics, and when it's cultivated, you have like a Michael Jordan or an Olympic athlete or whatever. Like, right, with enough training and coaching, I'm still not going to like play in the WNBA. Like, that's just not in the cards for me. But yeah, I mean, like people are like born and gifted in such a certain way that's going to, with their like right training and right influence and amount of money to spend on it, like that they're going to be truly exceptional. And so that's not going to be in the cards for everybody to like be in the spotlight, to, right, like be on people's televisions. But I don't think that means that you're not going to be exceptional as a parent, as a business owner, as a member of the community, as the president of the PTO, like whatever it is. Like we all have like gifts, we all have skills that we can like contribute. But oftentimes those things are overlooked because they're not things that are, celebrated.
yeah, it doesn't make for a great story. Like, what if you like went to the movies and you watched a movie that told a story about someone who is like just average? It's almost like in that Seinfeld episode where they're like, "Well, what did you do today?" "I don't know. I got up and went to work." Like, all right, there you go. That's a show,
Well,
right? You
and
can't make a show out of that necessarily. And so what we do,
except they did.
except, well, that was different, but they have it's kind of like what's interesting, what captures attention is,
The best and the worst.
well, is even
Not
just a
just
good
the
story
average.
as a break from the average. Like
Sure.
we know what average is. So like a story talks about like there's the exposition. They live in this town. Here's who the main characters are, and here's what's going on. And then one day, and it's that one day when something exceptional and unusual happens that the story really begins.
And there you go. But a lot of times, people who go on to be exceptional, they become amazing because they're obsessed with improvement, and so that stems from the unerring belief that they are in fact not that great at all. That they are mediocre, that they are average, and that they can be so much better. So, like, if you don't think that there is anything special about you or anything noteworthy about you, right? Like, are you willing to put in some time and effort to figure out what it is you want to be exceptional at? And it doesn't have to be at basketball or at entertaining somebody. Like, maybe you want to be exceptional at playing the piano. So you got to get started. Like, maybe you want to be exceptional at being a great husband. Like, all right, like, time to double down.
Right. I
Like,
think
you have to acknowledge where you are, and then you have to want to get better, and then you want to have to like put a plan in place to get there.
yeah, and sometimes it's something that's not so easily quantifiable or even like comparable. Like, again, like becoming exceptional implies that you're comparing yourself to someone who's not exceptional in that particular area. But yeah, sometimes like just being a great husband, like you're not going to compare yourself. I guess you could, but I don't see it as productive. You're not going to compare yourself to other husbands and think like, oh, I'm
better than that guy, so I must be pretty good.
right.
You don't look at someone worse than you.
That doesn't seem productive. But like just kind of looking at like how effective as a spouse was I last year, and now how can I be more effective, more loving, more of who my spouse needs me to be this year, right?
It's actually a very beautiful thought.
It really is, but it doesn't feel like
Noteworthy.
No. And it evades some of the other ideas of being exceptional. Like we think of exceptional also is, I think, being partially public in some way,
Yes.
right?
You're
On
right.
social media, or to some degree, like I can think of when I go golfing. Usually, if I'm in a foursome, like there's one guy who's exceptional compared to like the other three of us anyway. One guy who's worse than me, and then I'm kind of in the middle.
Middle of the pack.
Right. But that's like by strict like point of comparison. And so I think of, yeah, it's okay to be looking at areas of your life that you really do want to become better than how you were. If your average was however it was the previous year, like what can you do to excel in that area?
Well, and I'm, just has my mind thinking of a lot of different things. Like I have a friend who is a speaker, and I would say she's a great speaker. Does she have a following? Is she on tour? Is she writing a book? Right? Like, no, she's not Rachel Hollis, but she's an exceptional speaker. But like maybe
Rachel Hollis is your example.
no, I'm not. I'm saying like my friend likes to speak, is a speaker, but she's not Rachel Hollis. She's
I
not
know,
selling
but
out stadiums.
okay.
But in comparison.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not saying that this person is the end all be all. I'm just saying, does she have a book tour? Does she? No. Like she doesn't have all of these things, but that does not mean that she's not exceptional. And nor should that hinder her from wanting to like continue doing that. Even if it's not making her millions of dollars. If it's something that she's passionate about and something that she loves, then she should continue to pursue it.
Right.
Right? No one is knocking on our door currently for, to be, sponsors of our podcast show. So, I think when we talk about the upside of being average and we talk about, the mediocrity myth, like if we don't have 1 million followers or if this isn't paying the bills, then it's not worth the time. I think that's a fallacy. It's okay to have something that you enjoy, that you do well, and you might not be the best and you might not be the most famous, but is there anything wrong with that? Right? Like, is the only way to determine if our show is successful is if we, are the next, I don't know, Sam Harris, right? He's got a huge following and gets paid to do this. I would love to get paid to sit and talk with you. Might not be in the cards for us, but does that mean it's not worth it?
You can't afford me. I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Is it about breadth or depth?
Ooh.
So here's what I'm thinking, because
I mean, the question is deep and wide, right?
right. So
Do you want to go deep or do you want to be wide?
Yeah, that's the question. So is like I'm just looking at myself. Like I want to be. It sounds weird to say it loud, but I'm okay with being average in a lot of things. And I just look at like some of the different areas that I'm like pursuing in life. So, and I'm also like I don't want to be pinned. Like I don't want someone to be able to like triangulate me.
I know you don't like for someone to tell you who you are.
Exactly.
You're like, nope, that's not me. Now I will do the exact opposite.
Exactly. Right. But like someone looks at, okay, you're an educator, and I'm a darn good one, but
You're a great one.
But I don't want someone to assume like, okay, so he must spend like his free time reading and writing, which I do. But I also, he co-hosts a podcast. He plays the piano and the drums, and he is training in jujitsu. And
He's an engaged father of 4.
right. So in a sense, like I feel like I'm going more for breadth, where I'm not going to be great at any one of those things. Like I can play the piano in an average way. I can play the drums in an average way. Like, but compared to someone who's exceptional in those areas, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll never be the tough guy at the gym, but like over time, like just working to improve those skills. And then I think about like, I feel like I'm a mediocre husband and an above average dad, right? And but like thinking of those different domains or whatever else like I choose to add, like I kind of prefer the idea of having of being average in a lot of different areas than excelling in strictly one.
Okay, so kind of that old adage of having your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, or like being more of a Renaissance man, like a jack of all trades.
Master of none. Okay. And I mean, and those are interesting, even questions to ask yourself, right? Like there are, some kids who from a very young age, right? It's like all dance all the time, all basketball all the time. Like, there's one sport, it's year round. It's, tutors.
Become exceptional at this.
So it's the one thing, whereas you're saying like, and that's fine, and you can choose to go that route. Same thing with your career, right? You could spend 98 hours a week at work, and so like all your eggs are really in that basket. So like you're an exceptional doctor, businessman, bus driver, whatever it is. All your eggs are in that basket. So you're not a great dad, you're not a great husband, you're not a member of the community, and that's fine because that's where you've kind of put yourself. So even this notion of maybe I want to be spread across a variety of things. And it might not be 12, but it could be 3 or 4.
Yeah, I almost picture it like, maybe this is the wrong way of thinking about it, but I'm picturing a soundboard. And, it has all these inputs and all the different volume levels. And as soon as you raise the volume level in one area, then many of the other areas have to
come down.
Have to come down a little bit. And I think that's just the nature of our time and our lifespan and how much we can contribute to those. So yeah, like sometimes you hear about people who are extraordinary in certain aspects of their life, but then you look like behind the scenes and you see that they're lacking.
Yeah, they're not even average in others. They're like
right, like just
below
with their family
average,
or
yeah.
with their morality or like certain things. Yeah, and so I think those are the kinds of things I'd like to like be exceptional at. Except there's really no point of comparison. You don't get any points, so to speak, publicly or socially or egotistically if you're like just a really great family person. But that's almost like what matters more than pursuing some of the other things. And so, I don't know, I just like keeping those in balance. So for me, like I like the idea of like average exposure in a wider array. But some people, I think you could reasonably make the case for going really deep in one particular area.
Okay.
And becoming exceptional.
Maybe we should have rated each other in categories. That would have been fun.
Rated each other in categories?
Are you exceptional, average, or below average?
What categories?
I don't know. I mean, you could say personally, professionally, health. You could go through it.
Oh, I thought you meant like just around the like, are you cook, cleaning, childcare, in the bedroom, right?
Oh, Jordan. You're like, all I care is that I'm exceptional in the bedroom.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
What else do you have on your list? Anything you want to add to this conversation?
The only other major thing is just what we tell our kids. Like, do we tell them, do we tell them expect to be average? Do we tell them, I could picture Sebastian Maniscalco like mocking this, but you're special, just like everybody else. You're an extraordinary human being.
I like to be real with the kids. And the reality is someone is always going to be better than you. You're playing on the baseball team and someone's going to hit harder than you. Someone's going to throw farther than you. Someone's going to run. Is it about being the best or is it about striving to be better than where you were?
For me, it's like, you got to be the best. I want to be the best.
You know what?
You're right.
We're competitive.
It should be.
We're
right.
competitive.
It should be about.
We play a family game.
Competing yourself.
We're in it to win it, and we're in it to crush everybody else, so that we can say I win. Right? Leo, who is our second son, will cheat any way he can, just so that he can say he can win. But what is?
He doesn't have to. He wins everything.
I don't know.
I don't get it.
I don't know. But he's charmed in that sense. Some people have that, right? No matter what investment they choose or what business venture that they jump in, it's just blessing upon blessing, money upon money. And for some people, it's just not in the cards. It doesn't pan out that way. But I think kids need to be okay with who they are. I think they need to be in touch with what they're good at and what they're not. When I think of my business lately, obviously, I'm putting a lot more time and effort to growing my business, updating my brand, growing the brand awareness. Great. All of that stuff I'm learning. But when I'm comparing myself to, someone who's in the same industry that has 5 times as many followers, that's not going to impact the kind of work I do for a client. But you can easily get caught in that trap of they're exceptional because it's something you can see or something you can measure by followers or how many weddings they've done. But it's but this is where I am now. This is where I'm coming from. It's a huge leap. So I feel like my thinking has shifted when you're kind of going through it yourself. And I think that's why, like, when I talk about the kids with like how they're doing or what they're moving towards, right? Like we've got Juliet currently, she's in gymnastics, she's in dance, and she's taken up jujitsu. And she has this very like natural inclination and like focus on jujitsu. I would love for her to double down on dance. But you know what? She's taking hip hop, she's having a great time, she's doing the moves, but like, there's just going to be this natural pull for her to do certain things. And it doesn't mean she can't put her eggs in some of the other baskets and learn how to dance. And
especially when you're young.
Correct.
I think when you're young, it should be so much more about breath. Breath.
Breath with a DTH.
Right. Should we say with?
Deep and wide.
Right, because you're little, so like let's not worry about becoming elite at the age of 7. Because that's ridiculous.
But at the same time as the parent, like I want to like walk in and I want my kid to be the best one.
Then you feel like you won as a parent.
Right. Like, because I did something right. But it's kind of like those just natural inclinations for kids. Like some kids are just going to be elite from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And you're going to foster that. But I think part of it is like just being okay. Just be okay with being okay.
Just go
with
be a
enjoying
kid,
it.
Go have a good time. Go explore like those different areas that you're interested in.
Forget being a kid. Be okay being an okay adult. Actually, you should want to be better, right? We should want to be generous and funny and thoughtful and a good friend and a good community member. So it's okay to be okay. And it's okay to want to be better. Mm-hmm. You're probably just not going to be exceptional, and that's okay.
So it's the moral, going back to, I think you started with this, the idea of like, what did you say, accepting being average, or no, being average is not the goal. Well, you phrased it. What's your phrase?
Mediocrity as a goal sucks. Uh-huh. Like my goal in life isn't just to be average, right. But mediocrity as a result is okay.
Did you find that somewhere? Did you come up?
I found that somewhere.
Yeah. Mediocrity as a goal. So it is a bit of a paradox, right? You never want to aspire towards mediocrity.
I just want to be okay.
But know that whatever you do, that's going to be the outcome. Is that?
Yeah, I think the mindset is it's okay to be average. It's okay that you are not the best, but we shouldn't strive just to be a C student. Like we should want to master and learn the material. Mm-hmm. We should want to try and do better. It just doesn't. We're just not going to be the best. Mm-hmm. We're not always going to be the best, and that's okay. So we have to be our best, even if we're not the best.
So this makes me think about social media as well, because I feel like a lot of posts, just like almost like the purpose of a post is to show something that's not average, right? It's like here's an exceptional experience that I'm having. Here's an exceptional thought.
I think it depends. It depends on the person. The last picture I posted on my personal social media is a picture of Roman snuggled up with the dog on the couch, and it was just like this little snapshot, and I was like, life is good. Mm-hmm. I don't even think I put a caption on it, but it's like, it's a boy and his dog. Like I bought a dog who sometimes chews my shoes and, barks, but like, oh, my son and the dog are cuddled. Like, it was just like this tender moment. Mm-hmm. It wasn't to put anybody else down or, It wasn't to show like that the dog is doing something, my dog can walk backwards on its nose. Like it wasn't anything. It was just like a tender moment.
Yeah. But I think that's part of the danger too, because it is like a very sweet moment. It's, I don't know, like and I'm not saying your post does this, but does social media teach us to think that someone else's average is better than our average, if that makes sense?
Oh boy.
Right? Like, oh, like look at these tender moments are typical in the Catapano household. They're not. But does it create this sheen on other people's lives that makes us feel that we're either average or below average?
Probably.
I know that's not the purpose of this conversation, but
everything goes back to social media and technology.
It's such a huge
burn it
influence.
down.
Yeah. Okay.
But what's average anyways? Like what's average? Friendship, right? Helping someone in need, reading a good book, laughing with someone you care about. All sounds boring and average, right? But maybe they're average for a reason. Maybe they're the things that matter. Maybe everything that matters is just average. And if that's so bad, then I don't know. Maybe it's okay to be average.
Right. So the moral of the show is be exceptional at being average.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
In a sense. Yeah.
kind of. But let us know what you think. I mean, we're always so driven to be the best, right? To grow it, to move it forward, to be recognized, to be famous, to be rich, to have it all. But there is an upside to being average.
Mm-hmm.
You know, find what's meaningful for you. Be honest with like who you are and where your talents
own race.
lies.
Get out of the comparison game.
There you go. Run your own race. I love it. Any other thoughts?
No.
Well, this concludes episode 2 of season 6 of the Relentless Pursuit podcast. If you have more to add to this conversation, something you want to share with us, you can reach out to us on social media via our website. You can always head to iTunes, subscribe to the show, and leave us a 5-star rating and a glowing review.
Yeah, and if you happen to know anyone who's average, then maybe they would appreciate this conversation. And you can share this with them as well. But thanks for joining us this week. And until next time, take care of yourselves. We love
and
you.
each other.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jerry. All right, bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. We hope you will use this conversation as a starting point for your own. We hope you're encouraged to think and act more intentionally.
If you want to learn more, you can visit our website, therelentlesspursuitpodcast.com, where you can find notes on today's show, plus additional blog posts, and you can subscribe to our free members list.
Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends.
Facebook and Instagram are 2 great places to connect with us for daily doses of our quotable quotes, behind the scenes, and real-time photos, videos, and challenges.
Until next time, let us know how you are taking life off autopilot
And relentlessly pursuing what matters.